The beak-winged Geonosian fighters wheeled through the sky, their engines screaming as their pilots opened fire on the descending Republic craft. Gunships fell like rocks, trailing columns of black smoke from their blown-out engines, blasting craters into the Geonosian desert as they crashed. With each that fell, a platoon of troopers perished, their bodies vaporized or burned beyond recognition. All around Point Rain, ships continued to rain down like meteors, while the cacophony of battle roared all around, a tumult of destruction that surrounded the clones like a bubble. Hello and welcome back to our latest series. Today, we're going to be taking a look at another of the bloodiest battles in the history of the Star Wars galaxy, looking for insights into the soldiers who fought and died in them, with the goal of understanding the worst day of these beings' lives, and, in many cases, the last day of these beings' lives. Today, we'll be taking a look at one of the Clone Wars' most important battles, the Second Battle of Geonosis, and we'll be looking at it from the Loyalist perspective. Geonosis was originally one of the CIS's most important mech worlds, but the Separatists weren't able to make use of it for long, as, in the very first battle of the Clone Wars, the Republic had captured the planet and dismantled its droid factories. Geonosis came under Republic occupation, but the Separatists weren't done with the planet just yet. The Republic's conquest of Geonosis had been incomplete. The planet's deep network of catacombs remained beyond the scope of Republic control, and in those catacombs, Separatist-loyal Geonosians regrouped and plotted to retake their homeworld. In 21 BBY, they made their move, and the Republic was driven from Geonosis. Geonosis returned to the Separatist fold, and the Confederacy immediately began rebuilding the planet's industry, which the Republic had dismantled. New droid factories, including one that would be the largest the Geonosians had ever made, were designed and built. Geonosis began churning out battle droids once again, and the Republic had a serious problem on its hands. Geonosis greatly bolstered the Separatists' production capabilities, leaving the Republic with no choice but to invade the planet once again. But this was easier said than done. The Geonosians and their droid servants had learned from the first Battle of Geonosis, and the Republic didn't have the advantage of surprise this time. The Geonosians recognized that their defeat in the previous battle had been due to the Republic's complete control of the skies, allowing them to provide their ground troops with air support and reinforcements, while the droid army had nothing of the sort. The Geonosians had rebuilt their defenses to counter this advantage, and in the Second Battle of Geonosis, they would make extensive use of ground-based anti-air artillery and squadrons of Nantex-class starfighters, both of which would prioritize the destruction of the Republic's LAAT gunships. The Geonosians were entrenched, prepared, and fighting on their home turf, but the Republic had to take Geonosis if it was to win the war, so it attacked anyway. It dispatched a massive invasion force to the planet, similar in composition to the one deployed in the first Battle of Geonosis, and among the ground units deployed were many of the Republic's most elite units, including the 501st Legion, 41st Elite Corps, and 212th Attack Battalion. In the opening wave of the invasion, 3 of these units were ordered to set up a staging area at a place the Republic had designated Point Rain, from which they would advance on foot to take out a shield generator that protected the Separatists' main droid factory from assault. But the landing at Point Rain didn't go so well, and in this early stage of the invasion, it seemed that the Republic's second assault on Geonosis was doomed to failure. From the moment the platoon had disembarked from their gunship at Point Rain, the Geonosians had been on them. A small ring of grounded troopships and heavy walkers was all that stood between the men of the 212th and angry legions of bloodthirsty insectoids, who swarmed around the perimeters on speeder bikes and in armored tanks, firing on those few clones who had made it to the landing zone. Bolts of energy, red and orange, burned paths through the sand that filled the air above Point Rain, accompanied by the occasional plasma cocoon tank shell and brilliant green sonic blast. The enemy fire slammed into the armored hulls of the walkers and gunships, spattering like rain and unleashing shrill bursts of weaponized sound, loud but still barely audible over the hellish cacophony that filled the landing zone. Above, squadrons of Republic gunships and dropships weaved between artillery blasts, dodging flak and sonic bursts as they attempted to ferry additional troops and walkers to the ground. Most of them never made it. The cannons claimed some, and as the artillery barrage continued, beak-winged Geonosian fighters descended from the clouds, wheeling and spitting energy blasts at the slower gunships below. Many were hit, and those that were fell like rocks, blasting craters into the desert with their impacts, wiping out a platoon of clones or a heavy walker with each impact. While a great many of their clone brothers fell to fiery deaths all around them, the survivors of the 212th rallied at Point Rain, breaking into squads and forming perimeter defenses as the Geonosians continued their relentless offensive. Their protective helmets, which had been tailored for the desert environment, cut through the clouds of sand with vision-enhancing instruments and made an effort to dim the noise, but neither did much good. There was only so much machines could do to bring clarity in a situation where there was none to be found. As one squad took position in the hold of one of the landed gunships, setting up an E-web and turning supply crates into cover, the squad's sergeant scanned the horizon for the enemy, hoping to spot targets through the clouds of dust. But the sands of Geonosis obscured the attackers as if the planet was protecting its own, and the only sign of the enemy was the fire they sent across the desert flats, burning red and green, all from ever-changing angles as the Geonosians circled Point Rain on their speeders. The clones began firing anyway, spraying packets of energy blindly into the distance, hoping to catch something, at least, in the crossfire. But even as the E-web began firing, its roar drowning out the chaos overhead, its brilliant blue fire only attracted the Geonosians' attention. A shell sped out across the flats, cocooned in orange plasma, flying low above the ground, and before the sergeant could react, it struck. The blast shredded the gunship from within, unleashing a burst of flame that ripped through the hold and flung bodies in all directions. The sergeant was flung into the air, burning pain crowding out all other thoughts, before he hit the rocks of the Geonosian flat, head first, and thought no more. Republic forces endured terrible losses at Point Rain, but in the end, enough troops and heavy vehicles were able to make it to the landing zone for the assault to proceed as planned. With air support from Republic Y-wings, the troops at Point Rain were able to fend off the Geonosian attack on their position, and then advance to destroy the shield generator, allowing the Republic to deploy full armies to attack the Stalgasian Hive's new primary droid factory. Even without its protective shield, this factory would be difficult to bring down, and Republic forces ultimately opted to dispatch a Jedi team into the factory to destroy it, while the invasion force staged a diversionary battle outside. This plan ultimately worked, though it cost Republic forces dearly. The droid factory was destroyed, and as it fell, the Republic began making major gains all across Geonosis. The fighting continued for several days, but in the end, the Geonosian lines collapsed and the Republic steadily regained control of the planet. This time, Republic forces made more of an effort to control the Geonosian catacombs, discovering and killing the queen of the Stalgasian Hive, Karina the Great, in the process. Poggle the Lesser, the Stalgasian Hive's Archduke, was captured, crippling the dominant and most closely separatist-aligned Geonosian Hive. The other hives were subdued as well, and Geonosis once again came under Republic occupation. It would remain that way for the rest of the Clone Wars. But the Republic's victory in the Second Battle of Geonosis came at a high cost. Casualties were extreme. Many gunships and dropships had been shot down during the early stages of the battle, taking many clones and much-needed heavy walkers with them. Many more clones died on the ground, while many of the Republic's heavy vehicles were destroyed as well. Several Jedi generals were severely wounded, and one company of clones was infected with Geonosian brainworms, which almost spread to one of the Republic's medical stations, where they would have caused disastrous casualties. But the Republic did give as good as it got. The Geonosians' droid factories were utterly destroyed, and their droid armies were completely wiped out. This eliminated the production advantage these factories gave the CIS and prevented millions of new battle droids from joining the war effort. The Geonosians were also utterly crushed, largely disarmed, and subjected to Republic occupation. The Stargazian hive, which was the Geonosians' primary contact with the Confederacy, was crippled as its queen was killed and its Archduke was captured. Geonosis would never regain the prominence it had held before the battle, and it went on to be enslaved by the Empire and shunned by the New Republic as a result of its separatist ties. But that does it for this video. What do you think? What do you think of this series so far? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and any recommendations you may have for the series. As always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.